Guomin is known as the king of cold weapon killers and is also called the hammer madman. The ugliness of human nature is always exposed in criminal cases. Let's explore and study the human nature revealed in these cases together. During his killing spree, he continuously learned and summarized his experiences, changing his methods of murder until he found a routine that suited him best. Knives are not as good as spears. Spears are not as good as axes. Axes are not as good as hammers, which are convenient and satisfying. From 1992 to 2001, he committed heinous crimes in Guangdong, Anhui, Yunnan, and other places, with 15 cases of robbery involving amounts up to 5 million yuan. What's more, he brutally killed 23 people, sparing no one from the elderly with white hair to children as young as 8 years old. He is the complete opposite of the image we usually have of a bloodthirsty murderer. He is short, with a flat head, square face, thick eyebrows, and big eyes, and every move he makes gives people a sense of being honest and reliable. If you put him in a crowd, he would quickly disappear into the sea of people. But no one expected that such a seemingly weak and honest person would be a ruthless bandit who treats human life as if it were nothing. Compared to other high IQ murderers, Guomin is far from them in terms of knowledge and intelligence. In his own words, he is uneducated and an illiterate farmer. The process of committing the crime is also very simple and reckless, focusing on one word: fast. How did he step by step embark on the road of professional crime, carrying 23 human lives, accomplishing things that a group of murderers may not necessarily be able to do, and even daring to rob a bank on his own? On November 5, 1971, the Lei family in Luowan village, Anqing City, Anhui Province, welcomed their second child, Guomin. Since he could remember, his parents always frowned and worked in the fields until it was dark. The family was poor with many children, and his parents couldn't take care of the children, allowing them to play in the countryside. His father had a bad temper, and young Guomin was often naughty and caused trouble, either pulling up seedlings in the neighbor's field or kicking the villagers' cattle. His angry father often beat Guomin, but he was stubborn and refused to admit his mistakes. His father would lock him in a dark room and starve him for a few meals, calling it, "A child is not shaped without beating." It wasn't until Guomin was 11 years old that he could no longer bear his father's attitude of beating and scolding him, and he secretly ran away from home, becoming a little beggar. He was young and wandering in unfamiliar places, suffering from cold eyes and rejection everywhere. Sometimes he didn't even beg for anything in a day and was driven away by passers-by. When he was lucky, he could meet kind-hearted people who would give him a bun, but before he could put it in his mouth, it would be snatched away by other vagrants. Starving was a common occurrence. He, as a little child, was accustomed to the warmth and coldness of society, understood the principle of the survival of the fittest, and was forced to learn to steal. But at that time, he was timid and afraid of things, and after being caught, he was inevitably beaten. When he was beaten black and blue, he also thought of going home and eating a hot meal at home. So, after wandering around outside for 2 years, 13-year-old Guomin returned home. Along the way, he had envisioned countless scenarios of reuniting with his parents. Perhaps his parents would cry upon seeing him, or they might inquire about how he had been these past 2 years. However, contrary to his expectations, his parents didn't seem to care about his well-being at all. The first thing they said when they saw him was, "Why did you come back? Why didn't you just die outside?" Guomin's heart turned cold. It dawned on him that he had never had a true haven, whether at home or while wandering. He was always the most overlooked person. After staying at home for 2 years, his parents still held no affection for him. Feeling disheartened, Guomin followed the villagers to Jiangsu to work. He made a vow to make a name for himself and prove everyone who had looked down on him wrong one day. For the affluent, the outside world may be alluring, but for Guomin, it only offered hardships and an unending struggle. He was underage and lacked education. Decent jobs were beyond his reach, and even manual labor seemed to snub him. Even restaurant waitstaff positions rejected him. He could only take odd jobs and sleep on park benches at night, but this was clearly not a sustainable solution. Unable to survive outside and with no home to return to, Guomin reluctantly resumed his old habit of thievery. He began frequenting the train station exit, targeting those who were alone and traveling. His innocent appearance and good fortune allowed him to succeed many times. But as the saying goes, you can't walk by the river without getting your shoes wet. One day, while using tweezers to lift a wallet from someone's pocket, he was caught just as he was about to make his getaway. He struggled to break free but was brought back. More people surrounded him and dragged him into an alley, brutally beating him. The beating seemed to last forever until the attackers, exhausted, finally left, cursing as they went. Years later, Guomin recalled, "I nearly died from that beating. I was lying on the ground, barely breathing. If I had died, there would have been no more complications, but against all odds, I survived." After being injured from the theft, Guomin used his last remaining money to rent a cheap hotel for half a month to recover. Lying on a rundown bed, staring at the ceiling, he contemplated suicide. But when he picked up a piece of broken glass to cut his wrist, he couldn't bring himself to do it. Why did others live in luxury while he couldn't? He refused to accept it. Why should he be the one to die? No, Guomin was determined to make a fortune, even if it meant resorting to any means necessary. From then on, Guomin seemed to transform. He stopped focusing on petty theft and began thinking that if he was going to steal, he might as well go big and target the rich. He heard that in Guangzhou there were many wealthy families, so after saving enough for a train ticket, he headed to Guangzhou to try his luck. It was there that Guomin embarked on his irreversible path from a petty thief to a murderer. In 1992, Guomin arrived in Guangzhou. He spotted a man named Jiang Ping on the street, wearing a leather jacket and carrying a backpack. After a month of surveillance, Guomin had familiarized himself with Jiang Ping's routine and home address. He discovered that Jiang Ping was a businessman who had amassed his fortune in the slaughtering industry, owning a car, a house, and a large safe in his bedroom. So, on the evening of August 1st, armed with a prepared kitchen knife, Guomin sneaked into Jiang Ping's bedroom. Once inside, he found a man sleeping in bed, unaware that it was Jiang Ping's brother, Zhang Yulin. To avoid detection, he slashed Zhang Yulin's neck with the knife. Poor Zhang Yulin, in his sleep, let out a scream before falling silent. Guomin quickly searched him and found only 10 yuan. As he was about to open the safe, he heard a man's voice from the adjacent room grumbling and asking, "Who's there?" This incident startled Guomin, who hastily fled through the window. Guomin, who had intended to make a fortune, only obtained 10 yuan and was unwilling to accept it. He decided to continue committing crimes. However, having just committed a murder, he dared not take risks while the pursuit was intense. So, he laid low for over a year until he saw an opportunity in November 1993. He lurked outside the Zhou family's home on the outskirts of Zhongshan City, Guangdong Province, planning to act after dark. Unexpectedly, he ran into the Zhou family's hostess as she was cleaning up and leaving the house. In a moment of desperation, Guomin decided to go all out and charged at the hostess, slashing her wildly. The severely injured woman panicked and screamed for help, alerting the neighbors. Seeing no hope of robbery, Guomin had to hurriedly flee the scene. Both robbery attempts ended in failure, leaving Guomin feeling frustrated. In the winter of 1993, Guomin heard that the drug trade was thriving near Yunnan, so he relocated there. There he was imprisoned for theft and met Jiang Yunming in the cell. Jiang Yunming was only a year older than Guomin, but had much more criminal experience. He had trafficked in guns and drugs and was a real tough guy. Guomin realized that having an accomplice for robbery would be easier than acting alone. So he shared the idea of partnering with Jiang Yunming, and they agreed to do something big. After their release, Jiang Yunming obtained 2 pistols and dozens of bullets through his old channels, the first time Guomin had come into contact with real firearms. He was extremely excited, as if he saw piles of money in front of him, but they still needed a vehicle. The two decided to get a Honda motorcycle as an escape tool. Guomin and Jiang Yunming planned and divided their tasks. On January 29, 1994, Guomin saw a young man riding a beautiful red motorcycle outside the Haitang Hotel in Kanning City. Pretending to take a motorcycle taxi, he lured the driver to a construction site. As soon as they got off, Guomin shot the driver in the head from behind, which shocked even Jiang Yunming, who was accustomed to tough situations and stood there stupefied. It wasn't until Guomin shouted at him, "What are you doing? Come on, help me deal with this person," that Jiang Yunming regained his composure. However, to their surprise, the motorcycle was not a Honda but an ordinary Qianjiang brand, and they only found 20 yuan on the driver. They had killed someone and stolen a motorcycle, but it was not worth the effort. This made Jiang Yunming very angry, and Guomin kept his head down in silence. The two, who were not willing to give up, killed the car owner Huang Luolin on April 3, 1994, using the same method, and finally obtained the Honda motorcycle, but they only found a little over 20 yuan in cash on the owner. They realized that robbing people was not a viable long-term solution. It was laborious and yielded little money, so they decided to rob houses instead. Having committed several crimes in Yunnan, they were worried that continuing to commit crimes would draw police attention. Guomin suggested robbing in Guangzhou, where people were wealthy, and he was familiar with the area. Therefore, the two immediately bought tickets to Guangzhou, and after a week of scouting, they targeted the home of Ruan Jinzuo and his wife in Shaxi Town, Zhongshan City, sneaking into their house late at night to wait in ambush. When the couple was fast asleep, they stealthily approached the bedside and, with guns pointed at their heads, demanded that the startled couple hand over all the valuables in the house. To Guomin's astonishment, the couple shouted and resisted desperately, refusing to hand over any money. Fearing that the neighbors would be alerted, Guomin had no choice but to shoot them both. Before leaving, he reluctantly snatched the necklace from the wife's neck and departed. This robbery also ended in failure, which left Jiang Yunming completely disappointed with Guomin. He pointed at Guomin's nose and scolded, "I was wrong about you. After all this trouble, we only got a necklace. Do you even have a brain?" Guomin was not to be outdone and retorted angrily, "If you weren't so hesitant in everything you do, would it be like this?" The conflict erupted completely, and after a fierce argument, the two parted ways, each going their separate directions. Before leaving, Jiang Yunming secretly took the pistol they had hidden in the woods. Guomin also felt that Jiang Yunming seemed threatening but was actually very timid and couldn't achieve great things. After Jiang Yunming left, Guomin pondered for a while and concluded that one of the reasons for his repeated failures was that he had chosen the wrong targets. Most ordinary people's money was deposited in banks and there wasn't much cash at home. Trying to profit from them was high risk and low reward. After much thought, he finally decided to target merchants who were always engaged in business. Businessmen needed capital for turnover, and there must be cash at home. In addition, since the gun used for the crime was taken away by Zhang Yunling, using a knife often couldn't kill in one move, but would instead make the victims shout, leaving him no time to search for money. This time, he decided to switch to an axe which had more power. Once he cleared his mind, Guomin immediately became energetic and continued to wander the streets of Guangzhou looking for targets. It was then that he accidentally saw the news about Zhang Yunming in the newspaper. At the end of 1994, Zhang Yunming was involved in a robbery with others in Chongqing and was sentenced to death for robbery and drug trafficking by the court. Seeing that his former partner had finally been executed, even the bold Guomin was frightened. He knew that this day would come to him sooner or later. But then he thought he had already had no way back, and he would be caught sooner or later. Why not take the opportunity to do more now and live a happy life for a while? So, on March 23, 1995, Guomin found a suitable target again, and targeted the family of Liu Bashu, who was engaged in foreign trade business in Shaxi Town, Zhongshan City. After brutally killing him with an axe, Guomin took the 100,000 yuan in the safe and fled. The success of this robbery further increased Guomin's confidence. After spending all the stolen money, the greedy Guomin began to plan the next robbery. He had robbed many times, but the biggest amount of money was only 100,000 yuan. Guomin felt that this way of making money was still too slow. After thinking it over, he set his sights even higher this time, to directly rob the ticket office at the station. After observing for a while, he found that the ticket hall of Guomin bus station in Zhuhai City had the most people coming and going, the best business, and of course the most cash reserves. However, robbing a station was not a small matter. There were security guards on duty 24 hours a day, and no one without skills would dare to have such a bad idea. To ensure a foolproof plan, Guomin began to practice his robbery skills and chose a more convenient tool for the crime, a hammer. From his previous robberies, he had learned that guns make noise and are easily traced by the police. Knives can't kill in one strike. Axes are good, but they are too heavy and not conducive to exerting force. Hammers are light and can meet the requirements of a surprise attack. However, the key point is that he is only 168 centimeters tall, while security personnel are basically over 178 centimeters. If he wants to kill with a hammer in one blow, the strength must be fast, accurate, and ruthless. So, Guomin returned to his hometown of Anqing and rented a 100-square-meter warehouse, which he transformed into a fitness area and began to train physically. He practiced arm strength with a pulley every day, did 50 push-ups, and ran a 40-kilometer run. He also used a sandbag to simulate a human body and practiced boxing every day. After training, Guomin claimed that he could kill a strong adult in 6 seconds. In order to escape, he also took a driving school and obtained a driver's license. Well prepared, in the summer of 1995, Guomin took a hammer and a knife and sneaked into the Guomin bus station in Zhuhai City to prepare for the crime, but was caught by the duty personnel twice. Guomin knew that he was not at an advantage in a head-on confrontation with them. Killing people was never his purpose. His purpose was to rob money, and it was not worth the risk of not robbing and killing people, which would increase his risk of exposure. So, Guomin began to practice physical fitness day and night and wait for the opportunity until a year later, on the evening of June 13, 1996, when he made his move again. He sneaked into the ticket hall in the middle of the night, and after the two duty personnel were separated, He launched a surprise attack and killed the two security personnel with a hammer, and then fled with nearly 500,000 yuan in cash. This robbery was smoother than Guomin had imagined, and it also stimulated Guomin's strong desire for money. If you're going to rob, you might as well rob the biggest one and go straight to the bank. But according to his observations, banks were filled with surveillance and security personnel, and the slightest mistake could trigger the alarm system. It was too difficult for him to act alone. Soon, Guomin found that compared to banks, credit cooperatives were a good choice. The supervision was weaker than that of banks, but the money was not less than that of banks. After traveling around for several months, he observed countless credit cooperatives and finally set his sights on one in Tonghua City, Jilin Province. He opened an account with a fake ID in advance, depositing 1,000 yuan to observe the security system of the credit cooperative. He found that there were only 2 security guards during the day, and surveillance was only installed in a few key places. There was only one old man on duty at night. On July 31, 1998, Guomin sneaked into the credit cooperative from the back wall, knocked an old man to death in his sleep with a hammer, pried open the safe, and took away 150,000 yuan in cash. Tasting the sweetness, Guomin realized that it was faster to rob the country's money. Later, he committed crimes in a similar manner. On August 5, 2000, he sneaked into the Baiguan Credit Cooperative in Suzhou City, Anhui Province, killing 2 on-duty personnel with a hammer and robbing 188,000 yuan in cash. In February 2001, Guomin, who was wandering in Jiangxi, set his sights on the vault of the Ruochang Credit Cooperative. He heard that the key to the credit cooperative's vault was in the hands of the security guard Zhou Shengzhong. So, on the afternoon of February 21st, Guomin sneaked into Zhou Shengzhong's house and knocked down his mother, who was home alone, with a hammer. Then he killed Zhou Shengzhong's wife, who came back from shopping with a hammer, and then killed Zhou Shengzhong himself, his eldest daughter, and his niece. He found the vault key on Zhou Shengzhong. Soon after, Zhou Shengzhong's 13-year-old daughter was just at the door when Guomin knocked her down with a hammer until she was dying, and the crazy Guomin even raped her. At this time, Guomin was like a wild beast with bloodshot eyes. In less than half an hour, all 6 members of the Zhou family died. Just as he was about to leave Zhou Shengzhong's house with the key, he heard someone outside the door shouting, "Brother, open the door." It was Zhou Shengzhong's brother who came. In order to avoid alerting the police, Guomin had to escape from the window and drove back to Anqing that night. Back in his hometown, Guomin felt more and more suffocated. He killed 6 people and didn't rob any money. He must avenge his shame. On April 14, 2001, Guomin set his sights on the Yandu County Credit Union, Yancheng City, Jiangsu Province. After killing 3 security personnel with a hammer, Guomin couldn't find the vault key on them. Furious, Guomin had to return to his car and brought the cutting equipment he had prepared in advance to the vault door. It took him 2 hours to cut a hole in the vault door and the safe. He stuffed a large amount of banknotes into a sack, quickly carried them to the car, and sped away. This time, his destination was his hometown. On the way, Guomin, who had a strong ability to counter surveillance, pretended to change a tire and replace the car with a fake license plate he had prepared in advance, then broke the old license plate and put it in the car. After a while, he threw the license plate into the river outside the guardrail. He threw away the tools of the crime, such as the knife, hammer, and saw, every time he walked a section of the road. This way, he could avoid attracting attention and would not arouse the suspicion of the police. When he arrived at his hometown, he took advantage of the dark night to move the sack of money into the warehouse he had rented for fitness before. Looking at the stack of brand new RMB, Guomin's heart almost reached his throat, and then he danced crazily. After the ecstasy, he calmed down and counted roughly according to the category, and there were actually 2.68 million. This completely exceeded Guomin's expectations. At that time, the price of this sum of money could buy dozens of houses in Guangzhou. But how to deal with so much money? After thinking for a long time, the most dangerous place is the safest place. He opened accounts in various banks in his hometown of Anhui in 2 days, depositing hundreds of thousands in each bank, and then hid the passbooks on the beam of his house, leaving a 200,000 yuan passbook for his own use. The amount of money he got from this robbery was more than the sum of all the money he had robbed before, enough for Guomin to live a worry-free life for the rest of his life. After hiding for more than 10 years, he also planned to stop and not do it anymore. In the future, he would be a decent person and be a small boss in the prosperous Shenzhen. He carefully reviewed all the previous robberies, and each time the blood was cleaned up by him completely, and there was no trace left at the scene. In addition to the last bank robbery, although the time was too short, all the tools were processed by him, and there should be no big problem. In order to prevent the East Window incident, he stayed at home for 2 months without going out in his hometown of Anhui. When everything was calm, Guomin felt that he was completely free. On June 12th, Guomin boarded the train to Shenzhen, but he didn't expect to be arrested on the spot by the police who had been ambushed there as soon as he got off the train. It turned out that Guomin had calculated everything, but he fell on the last robbery case. At that time, he was carrying a sack of cash and running away over the wall, but he accidentally left a bloody handprint on the wall. After collection, the fingerprints on the blood print were consistent with the fingerprints he had filed in the police station when he was caught in a theft case before. The police traced back to Guomin's hometown. After the investigation in Anhui, it was learned that Guomin had gone to the Shenzhen area, and then the Shenzhen police were contacted to arrest Guomin. At first, Guomin was unwilling to admit his crime. When the police searched his pocket and found a 200,000 yuan passbook, asking him where the money came from, he still lied that his money was earned by selling counterfeit cigarettes and pirated CDs in private. But when the police asked about the source of the counterfeit cigarettes and CDs, he mumbled and couldn't say clearly. After careful investigation, it turned out that several previous major cases were all committed by Guomin. On November 9, 2001, the People's Procurator in Cheng City, Jiangsu Province, prosecuted Guomin for robbery and rape of a minor and sentenced Guomin to death. At the court, Guomin was in tears and regretted his actions, saying he was willing to donate his body to help those in need and atone for his sins, but now it's too late. A total of 23 lives were brutally killed under his butcher knife. The death penalty is also what he deserves.